All right, we are back in the club today. We have Adam Stoczynski here with me. I'm Chris Jager, and we have Northwestern University in the house represented by Bobby Dunlap.
Hello, everybody.
What's up, Bobby? Welcome in the club.
Yes. When it comes to everything you're doing at Northwestern, you reside within the Alumni Engagement team. And I think it's a huge element to how universities engage with their constituents and their students, both former and current, because you want to set up those current students to understand the importance of alumni. But that conversation of, what is alumni engagement and why is it so important to the university function? Would love to hear from you. What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I mean, what it really amounts to for me is showing students, especially undergraduate students and grad students, all students, that their relationship with the university doesn't start and end when they step on campus and then when they receive their degree, that it's a lifetime relationship that they're building with the institution, and something that keeps them connected both to the organization and to the people that are also connected to the organization over time. And that will manifest itself in ways that are different throughout their whole collegiate and post-collegiate experience, whether it's connecting with someone casually when they move to a new city, which we try to evoke in some of our programming, or utilizing the network that they built to identify their career interests, or actually like tangibly get a job outside of
it's a big thing.
School. Yeah, it's one of those goals that you have when you go to college, is to get a job or a career out of it. So really that alumni engagement is connecting somebody back to the organization, being that conduit for their connection with other folks throughout the country, and for Northwestern, it's throughout the world.
Yeah, and I love that analogy of being the conduit. That is what you're doing. You're serving to connect both generations of current students with former students, with that building that network. So when they do enter that workplace, they have that safety net of folks they can connect with, engage with, move into a new city. I love all that, Bobby. I think it's one of those things that's underappreciated when it comes to alumni engagement is the network and the power that it holds.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's most of what we do is connecting folks, and just being that connective tissue to them is the shared experience that you had at Northwestern. Whether you graduated in the 1950s or the 2010s, that you all had at least some common experience. It certainly looks different over time. The experience of somebody from the 1950s should look a little bit different than the one from the 2010s, but something that you can hold connection to over time.
And I think that's one thing that's unique to Northwestern, is that rich tradition and heritage, though, that does exist. There are those landmarks across campus that every Wildcat has some sort of memory tied to, whether it be the rock or different just signature pieces across campus. You have the ability to use those as engaging touch points for folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Some things that have been around forever. We just tore down our stadium, that 104-year-old stadium, but we're going to be building a new one on there that will evoke some of the pieces of the past to things that might seem like they've been super long-standing traditions, but our March Through the Arch, which is it's less than 20 years old, but it stands as a long-term tradition. Something that I've learned working in university settings is that it really only takes 4 years to establish a real tradition that somebody is going to think has been around for longer than they may have anticipated, or shorter than they may have anticipated. That the arch was only built on campus in 1994, but it's something that is so evocative of our campus now that it seems like it's been there forever. And then the same thing with the rock is actually a lot older than you might think it is, though it's not in the same position as it once was. But it's got a deep history at the university, and has it's one of those symbols that as you mentioned has really carried through time.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I think that's one of those things where you look at how you use the brand and those brand elements to engage with alumni. This is exactly one of those things. It's not just the marks you have. It's those elements that are unique to your campus, that are unique to your community. And I think your office does a phenomenal job at bringing those elements to life.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we do. I mean, every campus is unique, of course.
Yep.
But being bounded in by the lake on one side and having that big, nice geographic marker for everybody to
Yeah.
notice, it's helpful to orient
Yes.
yourself whenever you're on
Yes.
campus, and then utilizing that in brand pieces like I know you and I were talking about earlier, our tote bags where we had a campus map, and
Yeah.
you've got these nice little pieces on campus that you can really create that are very, very easy to understand, even when in cartoon form or not necessarily photorealistic. You still understand this is the shape of the rock, this is the outline of campus and the lake fill and the pieces of the shape of campus that can help with creating a nice brand identity.
Such a unique campus. So, I mean, you got the campus feel in Evanston, then you got the city element to it, you got the lake, like you said. So I think just a lot of things happening at Northwestern, which just makes it a pretty cool campus.
And the cartoon element to some of those designs. You look at what's going on in retail, and my mind always goes to the Starbucks Been There mugs and just things that you see trending just across pop culture. And I think finding ways to tap into those too, and to put your own spin on it, your own taste of Northwestern purple pride onto these things. It's just cool to see, and I think you do a great job at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, take us through that Purple Pride. Like you said, I mean, what makes that Purple Pride and that Northwestern Alumni Network just so strong?
Yeah, I mean, the element itself of purple is a fairly unique color. I mean, again, every university wants to think that their particular colors are very special to them, but there are fewer institutions, at least that I've seen, that carry purple, and there are various shades of purple. And I both appreciate and lament how quickly I can notice when it's Northwestern purple and when it's not.
Yeah.
When it's not the proper purple. It's this disease that's wormed its way into my brain, is understanding exactly what purple I'm looking at. But I do think that unique element of that color,
Yeah.
that it is so noticeable, and it is a very particular shade of purple, that you immediately notice it wherever you are. So when somebody is wearing something that has that purple and that particular purple, and then you see the N with it, although there also is NYU that's also purple and has an N. I mean, Northeastern's N is very similar to ours. Washington, new member of the Big Ten, they also are purple.
Yeah.
But it's
no longer the only purple.
No longer the only purple school. But again, it's an easily noticeable thing. So wherever you may be in the world and you see somebody with that particular shade of purple on, at least it's going to give you a second look at it and to make sure that it's Northwestern, but something that you can pick out of the crowd. And I think that carries over into the way that the people perceive the institution as a unique place that has its own character that's kind of evoked by that color. I remember seeing one of our marketing videos some years ago when we were doing some rebranding on the overall brand of the university, and they had kind of a sillier video of some students and the president talking about your dryer is going to be full of purple lint, and that it's true. I mean, it's true. You wash all your clothes and then you send them through the dryer, and then you're picking out purple lint out of your lint catch. For years after that.
Do I get a passing grade of my purple today, Bobby? I wore it for the podcast, but I know it's a little bit off. So
it's all right. It's all right.
It's not an NU purple.
No, it's not.
But no, along the lines of Purple Pride, I know you guys have a newsletter, the Purple Line, that you use to engage with alumni. And I think that's a huge tool when it comes to reaching folks. Talk a little bit about Purple Line and what that looks like and how you use that to engage with alum.
Yeah, I mean, we use purple for a lot of different things. And I mean, the CTA did us a solid by calling the line that goes through Evanston the Purple Line.
Very nice. Very nice
so
tie-in.
very, very helpful for us. I'm not sure, and I don't know the history of this, so I'm not going to speak with authority, but I don't know which came first or who named first, I should say, because the university certainly predates the CTA, but who chose the Purple Line? It's very, very fitting for it.
Yeah, we'll hope it was someone fun in marketing as they're doing the names of the lines. Thought of it.
Purple Line is one of our 2 newsletters that we send out that we use explicitly the name purple. We also have Virtually Purple, which we launched at the outset of the pandemic to promote all of our virtual programs and virtual content, and that's carried through to today. but using both the Purple Line to kind of talk about the movement of the university and the stories that we're telling and some of the events that we're doing to share the story of the institution. And again, using the color purple, as well as knowing that runs straight through campus, the Purple Line, and it carries you from the stadium down to the south end of campus. Is just evocative of your time on campus. And then Virtually Purple, saying that wherever you may be and whatever you're doing, we have these events and programs that you can participate in virtually that we're hosting to evoke that purple pride.
And I would imagine with, the onset of that happening at the start of the pandemic, it opened up the door to reach alumni in other countries and just across the globe in a little bit of a different way for you. Have you seen that be the case where you're finding different communities engaging in a little bit of a different way?
Certainly, it's assisted with that. Prior to the pandemic, we were certainly globally minded, and that's been a priority area of ours for years at the Alumni Association. But when you remove geographic bounds for the activities that you're doing, and we were doing webinars and we had a podcast predating the pandemic, but then when you have the hard shift to everything that you're doing is virtual and online, as we all well experienced.
There were some Club Colors virtual events.
Yeah, we had some good ones, didn't we?
Yeah. That you are able to, at scale and at a low cost, engage people wherever they may be and on their own schedule. I mean, whether through asynchronous experiences or recorded webinars where you can watch it at your leisure rather than on a set schedule. But we also, have considered the ways in which we're presenting content by taking things, presenting things that though we may exist in the central time zone here, and most of our staff is here in the central time zone, that we can host programs, virtual programs with alumni in Asia, in China, on a time frame that works well for them. So though it might be 7:30 in the morning here in Chicago or Evanston, we're going to be able to host an event that meets our alumni where they are and at a time that's convenient for them. So, virtual content and the hard shift that we had to make in the pandemic really kind of opened that up even further than what we were already doing.
We've seen that just for ourselves, the Zoom calls. Like Zoom calls weren't really a thing until the pandemic started, where it would be really hard pressed to get someone to commit to a video call.
Yeah.
And it shifted some of those behaviors. So it's cool to see, even all these years later, how you're still using that as a touch point to engage a global audience that you have. So, all this being said, what kind of got you into alumni relations as your craft?
That's a great question. And actually, in a couple of weeks now, I'm going back to my own alma mater, Miami University in Ohio, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of their student alumni group, the Miami University Student Foundation, that I was the chair of my senior year. And that was kind of my entree into alumni relations work. So as an undergrad, I was engaged in this work of fundraising and alumni relations.
It's in your blood.
Yeah, it is. I distinctly remember my senior year, I got to come to Chicago to be a student ambassador at our campaign launch event at the time, the For Love and Honor campaign. And I got to sit at the president's table with all of these folks that buildings are named after. And it was a meaningful experience for me that I didn't necessarily recognize at the time was as meaningful as it was, although it was a special experience for me. So undergraduate, then went straight to grad school to study higher ed and student affairs at Ohio State, the Ohio State University. If I'm being recorded for this, I get to make sure I say it properly. So the Ohio State University. And there I was fortunate enough to get a summer internship in the Alumni Association there and work with a professional who would become quite the mentor for me, Josh Harriman. He's back at Ohio State now.
Shout out to Josh.
Shout out to Josh. That I got to work with him. And he would become very influential, throughout my experience. So worked in North Carolina for a few years in student activities. So I was on the student side of things, using that master's degree that I invested in. And my wife and I were we planned to move back to the Midwest, applied to a number of jobs. I was doing alumni relations, or I was familiar with alumni relations. So I applied for a job and ended up working at Loyola for a little while before moving on to Northwestern, and have had a few roles there. So basically, I stepped foot on a college campus at 18 years old, and I have yet to leave. And I have no intention of leaving because it's a great environment, and I really like the energy that you get on a college campus, and it's something that's meaningful for me that I built a large network through working with the Council for Advancement and Supportive Education, CASE, for years, and just have a number of connections to folks throughout all of the industry that I'd be remiss not to appreciate and utilize throughout my careers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned CASE. I think that's, we talk about networking, talk about your alumni network. Professional networks at the same time offer such a resource to folks, and you've spent close to a decade, if I'm not mistaken, volunteering within the CASE realm, and now serve as co-chair of one of the Region V, if I remember correct, Region 5.
Yeah, I was the chair of the conference it was supposed to be 2020, but it got pushed to 2021. At Case District 5, so that encompasses the Great Lakes states.
Okay.
Plus, all Big Ten institutions are part of Case District 5, or can be part of Case District 5. And I've volunteered and been faculty members and co-chair of a few of their different topical conferences. So the Young Alumni and Student Engagement Conference and Homecomings and Reunions. So that's been an enormously powerful organization for me, not only to enhance my learning and enhance my professional acumen in this work, but also to build a robust network of folks that I can connect with about whatever challenges that I'm facing. So yeah, I started at Northwestern, and I knew I wanted to be more involved in CASE, and Josh Harriman happened to be the conference chair that year.
Okay.
And I asked him, how do I get involved? And he said, not handed me, but
here's what
he
you
asked
do.
He asked me to be a part of the conference committee, and I was there for a number of years until becoming the conference chair in 2020. Also met another great colleague that I have the great fortune to work with now at Northwestern, Lindsay Valdine, who was the chair of the conference this last year. So she was 2 years after I was the conference chair. So met a number of great professionals, and many, many more to name than that, but don't need to bore everybody with the laundry list of professionals that are great and meaningful people to me. But that professional network has not only gotten me great colleagues to work with, but also great professionals across the board that I can call up with any, like I said, with any challenge that I might be presented with. One thing I love about working in higher ed is the collegiality of everybody, is that we're not really competitors in any institution. The front end is the competitors. So the admissions space where we're competing for students, prospective students, once they get to the alumni space, they've already made their decision, and they are our clients, they're our constituents. So when another institution offers a great idea for a programming for a programming idea or an event that they've put on, or a branded item that they've had produced, we can share it, and we can share the ideas across any institution.
Yeah, take us through that student journey, right? Because at Club Colors, we like to think about it as this, right? When you're a prospective student, right, you're really responsibility of admissions. Their goal is to get you to campus. Once you're on campus, at some point in that orientation, that welcome week time, right, it gets handed to student activities, whose role is really to keep you happy while on campus, prideful, make sure that you love the university. And then there's a point there, right, at commencement, graduation, where it gets handed over to alumni. Right. Talk about just that student journey and how you work with those departments on campus, and guess what that's like to work with them. Maybe we're wrong as far as how we think of it. That's kind of how we think of that student journey on a campus.
No, largely that is. I mean, our student life colleagues at Northwestern and at every institution that I've been at are such great partners in all of the work that we're doing. So we work to be kind of what we've termed it a lead coordinator for a lot of different content that we're providing specifically for student audiences, where we aren't necessarily the prime drivers of the content that we're creating or the experiences, because there's a whole professional division that's handling a lot of that. But we want to be a part of that because we want to, as I said at the top, we're trying to shift mindsets for students to not think of, oh, I get my degree and I'm done with Northwestern. That's it. My experience is over. That we want to ensure them that beyond their 4 years, 5 years, however many years they're on campus, we have very ambitious, great students at Northwestern. Most of them graduate within that 4-year time frame.
Yeah.
But letting them know that their experience doesn't end when they cross that stage at commencement, that it's a lifelong relationship that you have with this organization that can help you throughout your entire career, your entire life. In fact, I was meeting with an alum this morning about some content that she's interested in creating around retiree engagement and kind of some purposeful learning, as she termed it, to continue to be a part of that intellectual engagement of the organization, of the institution, and how can Northwestern provide that for them. So creating that lifelong journey that begins as somebody's a student on campus. And one of the things that we do is at our Wildcat Welcome, which is our student orientation programming, is that we get invited in as the Alumni Association, and our president speaks to the students who have just set foot on campus. This is their second day. This is the day after move-in day. And our president comes in and says, as soon as you have matriculated on this campus, you're part of our alumni community, and that you aren't student as a discrete experience, then an alum. This is part of your journey, is that you are an alum from the moment that you're part of this campus community.
Interesting. I like that. That a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those things you talk about, the journey of the student. And there was a student, or a dean of students, that I was listening to a podcast earlier this year, and she mentioned, we don't recruit students, we recruit alumni. And it was such just a mindset eye-opener for me, where you are engaging with these folks through their lifetime. And it is something that, folks in your seat, in your role, in your niche on campus, that's a huge mission for you. And it is the mission for you, is to keep that engagement and keep them with that purple pride front of mind. But I think that a big piece of this pie is, how do you convert that recent grad to start to engage with alumni engagement and alumni relations, and get involved after they've transitioned away from being a student? I just think for myself, I've received different touch points throughout the time, but what do you see as a best practice to get that young alumni to really start to engage and to be more than just a former student?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is trying to make sure that they never move out of that mindset that they should engage with the institution. So we are heavily involved in the senior year experience. In fact, just last night, Northwestern, we hosted our last lecture program, where our senior class nominates and then votes on a professor to deliver their last lecture, which is usually very irreverent. Very cool. They select a professor who's been meaningful for them. And again, they vote on it. So it's fully selected by the students, and we just provide the space and the opportunity to have this program. And it's more life advice focused, but usually influenced by whatever field the professor is in. So it's got some tinge of whatever their particular research area is in, so that they know that that's brought to them by the Alumni Association, and they're thinking about, what does your life beyond Northwestern look like? And then we follow that up a few months later with, on the first day of classes, what would be their first day of classes. So this year it's September 24th, this year, 2024, is New Chapter, New Neighbors, which is our Welcome to Your City event. So wherever somebody may land post-graduation, we will host a happy hour for them. And we do this in our top cities for our recent alumni, where our recent alumni move. And it's a Welcome to Your City event. And we utilize our regional clubs to host these events, so that they can see that there's a significant group of Purple alumni in your community, wherever you may go. And getting in right at that early stage of their experience, so that we're part of that network that they're building. We're part of those friend groups that they're creating as they're transitioning into this new stage of their life. So the goal is to never lose them at all.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have communications touch points that we have with them. We have recent alumni newsletters that we send out that are specifically tailored to those classes, or to those classes, the most recent class years that have graduated, that have content that's that's related to their experience. A lot of our career programming attracts a lot of our recent alumni. As you can imagine, as you're establishing yourself in whatever field you've begun or that you immediately decide that you didn't like, we're going to be there to help you transition in that experience and to help further your career aims.
I think, the concept of kind of boots on the ground with the regional chapters, that's such a fundamental thing for folks to get involved with and get engaged with as they settle in these new cities. Oftentimes I can think of friends that moved to new cities for their first jobs out of college and they knew zero people. So having that ability to tie something familiar to them, which is the institution they just left, with peers their age, maybe within, the couple of decades worth of age range. So again, building that professional network in your new city. Such a cool idea. I love that, Bobby.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, right? You've touched on a couple of different events that you do throughout the year, but what would you say is your favorite, most impactful one that you guys run in alumni?
On a personal level, I love our athletics events.
Mm-hmm.
I explicitly kept that in my portfolio as I've moved into different positions. So I have been a participant in every NCAA men's basketball tournament experience that Northwestern has had, which has been a lot of fun. There's nothing like the adrenaline rush of not knowing what city you're going to until 4 days before your prospective program. So you find out on selection Sunday, and then your first game could be on Thursday, unless you're in the play-in games. Then your first game could be on Tuesday, which is, I've realized that any amount more than 4 days to plan an event is a luxurious amount of time. And I'm kidding on that because I would rather have more time than less. But knowing that you can pull something off, like this last spring, we hosted we were in Brooklyn, is where we were selected to go, and I'll be honest, Brooklyn was not our number one choice. New York is challenging to program in because we were looking to have 1,000+ people in a space that, they're just like not large spaces in New York unless you're looking to spend egregious amounts of money, egregious amounts of money. But we were able to find a warehouse.
Okay.
So it was kind of evocative of that Brooklyn, a little bit gritty space. It was a bare warehouse that we were able to, again, in 4 days, turn into just a purple, just a purple wild space that people could have this huge pep rally in. That really, again, pulled out a lot of that purple pride and allowed. We had over 1,000 people at each of our events. We pulled food trucks into this warehouse space, like indoors.
Awesome. Yeah.
Turned again a bare warehouse space into just this purple kingdom that we were hosting 5 blocks from the Barclays Center where the games were. And the net promoter score, the response that we got from folks in our post-event surveys was just so joyous that's a really meaningful experience for me. And you get that with a lot of the athletics events, but there's smaller scale things like just seeing a lot of the senior events are a lot of fun. We have Leave Your Print next week, which is where we have the rock on campus, as we've mentioned before. Students paint that, and it might not be an experience that you had as an undergrad that you got to participate in, but we paint the rock and say always a Wildcat or welcome to the alumni community or something like that on the rock. And then we take paint pens and students can sign it and get their pic. We have a professional photographer come in.
That's awesome.
So that they can have that experience and we can help be part of that final experience for them. So that's a meaningful event. Anytime where we can gather any number of alumni and they're really getting a meaningful experience out of it is something special to me.
I would imagine if we go back to the Brooklyn event, you've got this warehouse you found, you've got food trucks coming in, you created a purple kingdom, as you put it. I would imagine there's quite the team behind that, executing that.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah, we have this is great professionals that I work with at Northwestern. That's a full collaboration between the Alumni Association staff, our special events team, and our athletics development team. That if any one of us wasn't quality, that it wouldn't be nearly as special as it was. Yeah. So Alicia Torimoto and Grace Gagliardi were the 2 partners that I had, and Paige Vaughn Patel. I will name names here in case they're listening.
A lot of shout out.
In case they're listening. Yeah, we'll make sure that they get their due credit. That they're the ones who are, I mean, we all come at it from slightly different angles. That our special events team has, they're really thinking with our top donors in mind. Our athletics development team is really thinking about our athletics supporters in mind, and the athletics teams to ensure that their needs are met. And then the NAA folks, we're there to make sure that, generally speaking, we have a great event going on for a broad audience. And without each of those groups of people and each of the considerations and each of the professional experiences that we're bringing to this overall program that we're putting on, it wouldn't be nearly as good as the results end up being. I mean, nobody does this work on their own, and it really does.
What do you mean, Bobby?
Nobody, and I would never say that. I would never say that there's anything that I've been solely responsible for that I can take full credit for without the help of many people. And I work with a special group of people, and I do that. Purple Pride, I mean, not only exists within the alumni community and folks who have a degree from Northwestern, but also all of the fantastic professionals that I work with in alumni relations and development.
That's the execution side of it, Bobby. It sounds like, I mean, some amazing events, right? And especially when you have the NPS score that you did on that one. We have an ENPS, right? We do our employee and net promoter score here at Club Colors. We've been known to throw in some pretty good parties ourselves, right? But after those, when you're thinking about the next one, how do you live up to that previous one and keep your ear to the street as far as something fun that's going to live up to those the previous event or one that went really well? Like, how do you keep that team brainstorming and think of the next new fun thing?
I mean, I think those professional connections that I talked about through Case, I mean, are so critical to always knowing what's trending in the industry. I mean, partners like you all at Club Colors are super helpful in knowing some of those branded items that could help to make those experiences special and ensure that we have, I mean, there's some things that we've done with you all over years that I think we have this nice collection of items, like the pennants that we do for homecoming and reunion every year, or the pins that we do for athletics events that have this nice history to them. In fact, for the NCAA tournament, I had somebody reach out to me and say, I didn't get a pin at this event. Or no, it was the Las Vegas Bowl just prior to that. He's like, my son has had every pin from our last few bowl games. Can I get one? And we always hold back a few for historical purposes, and being able to use that branded item to create a special experience for somebody and ship it out to them, and make sure that they felt that connection to the experience, whether or not they were there, or if they were there and they just didn't get the item on site. That's how you keep those experiences together. And I mean, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our marketing and communications team as well, that helps in the production of those branded items and also helps us to communicate the successes that we're doing and communicate all of the events that we're doing, and making sure that people know about what's upcoming, or help to evoke that sense of missing out. Like, if you didn't attend an event, that we want to create some of that feeling of like, oh, well, I've got to be there the next time. And our marketing
FOMO, it's real.
Yeah, absolutely. And our marketing and communications team is great at helping us make that happen.